Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. And first we're going to talk about Velika Novoselovka Urozhaina area, about South Donetsk direction. The sources reported that the Russians conducted a very successful series of attacks towards the farms that located in the southwestern part of the village, and as a result of those attacks the Russians established complete control over the southern Urozhaina. This information we received from different reliable mappers and sources for now, and yet we haven't received any geolocations confirming this. We have just one geolocation from this territory, how the Ukrainians discovered and destroyed the Russian tanks somewhere in the farms on the southeastern part of the area. The Russians from the other side continue bombing and attacking the Ukrainian forces in the central part. Most likely after another artillery preparation and aviation preparation of the territory, the Russians will launch another offensive. Most likely during the next 48 hours the Russians will start offensive in direction of Staromayorsk. As soon as the Russians, let's say, answer and cut the road between Staromayorsk and Rozhaina, we expect the activization of Russian movements in direction of Staromayorsk as well. I'll remind you that just yesterday we discussed that the Russians destroyed the bridge between Velika Novoselovka and Vremevka that Ukrainians were using to supply and support their forces in the southern axis of this direction. So this is of course a very important thing that the Russians managed to do during the previous days. Now we're moving further and we are moving to Krasnogorovka direction. The most important updates currently are coming not from the stronghold itself, where the Russians continue clashes with the Ukrainians in the central part. The Russians have already established complete fire control over the main supply roads that goes inside of the stronghold. The Russians bombed Ukrainian positions heavily, but the most important updates currently are coming from the fields. From these fields, I remind you that the Russians decided to bypass this area and to attack Krasnogorovka at first, and as a result of clashes the Russians captured the southern part, and now it's time for the Russians to start clearing the fields between Krasnogorovka, Mariinka and Georgievka. So all these geolocations, all these videos confirms that this is the next target for the Russians, and the Russians are about to start the clearing operation in the territory. To summarize everything, this is approximately what the Russians are planning to establish control over during the next few weeks, or maybe even days, or maybe during the upcoming weekend or something like this. This is the vital question for the Russians, because the control over these fields, over this territory, allows the Russians and open them the gate, the window of opportunity to move further from Krasnogorovka in direction to Gostra, and to bypass Krasnogorovka from the south and Maximilianovka from the north. Now we are moving further to Очеретино direction, where we also got significant number of updates during the previous night. The Russians continue capturing more and more Abrams tanks on the direction. On this video we can see another Abrams that were abandoned by most likely 47th Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and the Abrams was successfully evacuated. Furthermore, we got report that the Russians are about to start using the new modification of a TOS flamethrower system by the name of Dragon, and the most important that this type of weapon is going to be able to attack the Ukrainian positions, the enemy positions, let's say within 15 kilometers. And this distance makes these, let's say, TOS flamethrower systems completely invisible for the Ukrainian FPV drones, because most of the TOS flamethrower systems that were destroyed during the previous phase of the special military operation were destroyed as a result of Ukrainian FPV drone strikes. So now the Ukrainians have no possibilities. Furthermore, the experts and the specialists are saying that this is going to be the most powerful and the most dangerous weapon in the special military operation, and just one, let's say, batch of missiles of this system can reduce to ruins the entire block, let's say, like Eastern Chasiv Yar. So this is going to be a significant weapon, and most likely either TOS flamethrower systems, Su-57s, and different other types of weapon the Russians are going to start using somewhere, maybe in Kharkiv direction, during the greatest Kharkiv offensive operation. From the other side, we see the concentration of Russian forces along the villages of Solovyova and Novobakhmutovka. We see the work of 47th Mechanized Brigade. The Ukrainians try to slow down and to attack the Russians. We have videos of significant number of losses, and so that's why the Russians are trying to keep the flank and not allow the Ukrainians to counterattack, while the main Russian forces continue the clearing operation between Novoalexandrovka, Arkhangelska and Kalinova. Today we got additional batch of different map updates from different mappers, and most of them are saying that Arkhangelsk Arkhangельska is about to fall. More than 50% of the stronghold village is already under Russian control, and the most important that the Russians reach the outskirts of this defense belt, this one, which is the most important defense belt on the direction, because if the Ukrainians lose this defense belt, Arkhangельska is going to collapse automatically. So most likely before the 9th of May, the Russians will be able to capture the territory. Furthermore, we got some geolocation, some videos of the fire anomalies. Now we got updates that the Russians are bombing the Novoalexandrovka as well as the Russians are bombing Kalinova. We have a lot of satellite images showing the, let's say, Russian focus and the results of attacks. Significant number of, let's say, funnels of strike. The Kalinova is already being reduced by the Russians to ruins. Now we are moving further to Chasiv Yar direction, where we also got significant number of updates, and the most important is that according to information we have, during the previous night the Russians conducted the first, let's say, not like reconnaissance in force or reconnaissance in combat, the Russians launched the first stage of the major assault on the eastern block of Chasiv Yar. The Russians answered the block from the east, from the south, and according to information we have, the Russians managed to seize control over some buildings in high area. So to summarize everything, the final battle for the eastern Chasiv Yar has started, and this battle started this night. Furthermore, we got additional updates of how the Russians control the main supply roads between one bank of the Seversky Donetsk Canal and another. Another pontoon bridge was destroyed as a result, most likely, of mortar strike or Krasnopol strike. So the Ukrainians have significant problems. We have additional videos of how the Russians were pummeling and bombing the Ukrainian positions already on the Ukrainian side of Seversky Donetsk Donbass, let's say, canal, and most likely we can consider this video as artillery preparation before further Russian attempts to cross canal itself and to enter the Ukrainian part of Chasiv Yar, and most likely to begin or to start offensive towards the block by the name of Novo from this direction. So the strikes took place here, and this significant strike not just to attack because we can, but to attack because the Russians know that this area is about to be captured and seized by the Russians. Furthermore, we have drone control over supply roads from both sides, either from the eastern and the central part. So the situation is getting worse and worse. We'll see what is going to be next. Sever's direction, we haven't received anything during the previous night, just regular bombardments of, let's say, landfill. South in Kupiansk, nothing, and north in Kupiansk, we have additional updates confirming Russian progress in Kislovka. On this video, we can see the Russian tank, who was the Russian armored vehicle, who was clearing the, let's say, central part of Kislovka. The Russians entered the territory, most likely landed infantry with very heavy fire from both sides, either from the Ukrainian or from the Russian. We have a lot of, let's say, explosions, lots of anti-tank missiles, grenade launchers, and so on. So the clashes were very heavy, but most likely the Russians bypassed the area, and now the clashes are taking place for the most western part. Furthermore, the Russians started their offensive towards Kotlarovka, and according to different reliable mappers, the first Russian squads entered Kotlarovka itself, and currently there are very heavy clashes for this territory. We don't have exact information which buildings, what buildings were captured and so on, but the pro-Ukrainians are saying that around 20% of the village is already under the Russians. Kharkiv area, the Russians continue clearing the territory against Ukrainian air defense system, against Ukrainian raiders. For example, on this video we can see how the Russians destroyed the another AN-TPQ-50 raider of the armed forces of Ukraine very close to the border, and also we got another video how the Russians managed to discover the position of IRST air defense system to the south of Kharkiv, and as a result of Iskander strike, that IRST system was destroyed. This video was published by the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation. We got a significant number of drones, Lancets striking, so everything tells us that the Russians are about to start an offensive. And I'll remind you that Macron yesterday stated that if the Russians are able to break through the Ukrainian defense and if Ukraine call for help, France will deploy their forces on the territory of Ukraine. But when talking about the media and different sources, for example, Business Insider interviewed one former US soldier, probably from Afghanistan maybe, or something like this, and he stated that the United States of America forgot how to fight in a real war, full-scale war, but not against guerrilla wars like in Afghanistan or Iraq. It's like real war, and currently the United States of America doesn't know how to run this. It was the, let's say, interview, maybe just a particular case, but anyway, this is very interesting. Furthermore, the Ukrainian intelligence services reported that Ukraine is on the verge of complete collapse. The Ukrainians are saying that Kyiv doesn't have any, let's say, ways, any, let's say, meanings how to win the war, with Russia, and according to him, most likely the negotiations about the ceasefire and the peace negotiations are going to start not earlier than in the second half of 2025. So according to him, till the end of this year, the war is going to continue. Anyway, you know that we are coming to the next phase of the special military operation, and everything may be changed during this, let's say, phase, because now, according to information we have, the sources, the parties are using different weapons, missile strikes, artillery strikes, let's say FPV drones, tanks, armored vehicles, just the fightings of soldiers and so on. But the sources are saying that currently FPV drones deal the biggest damage from both sides. Either the Russians destroy the Ukrainians with FPV drones significantly the same as Ukrainians, so even more than just flamethrower systems or something like this. So that's why we are moving to completely different, let's say, phase of the special military operation, and most likely either Russians will win or the Ukrainians, and based on the technology superiority. Who's gonna get some technology superiority will, of course, obviously win the war and will have a better negotiation positions in upcoming negotiation process. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.